Thanks. I'm Luke Kratz from Bazaarvoice. Today, I'm going to talk about generating value from data. And you've probably heard of how we can use analytics to glean insights from data and then make smarter decisions. I want to take the next step. I want to make those smart decisions automatically from my data. And this is the promise of machine learning, right? That we can capture the underlying characteristics of our data and use it to predict outcomes for unseen observations. In today's talk, I'm going to share with you guys a success story about how we at Bazaarvoice used machine learning to generate value from our data. Specifically, I'll talk about how we used AWS Sagemaker as a key piece of our MLOps strategy in order to cut our time to value by 6x and reduce our inference costs by over 80%. Along the way, I'll share some of our best practices that we've learned as we started to generate value from our data. So to understand the story, I think it helps to clarify a bit about what Bazaarvoice does. Bazaarvoice facilitates trust between consumers and e-commerce companies by curating user-generated content. Specifically, we build software that allows consumers to post videos, images, product reviews, and questions to our clients' websites. This builds trust by making the shopping experience more transparent. Consumers know what they're getting, and this drives sales for our clients. So what's actually the value here? Understanding value is the most important part of any machine learning project. You may have heard how Einstein would spend 90% of his time understanding a problem and 10% solving it. The same is true for machine learning. Machine learning should not be a solution looking for a problem. You need to understand the value that you're trying to create and how you're going to measure it in order to guarantee success. So this might be as simple as a single number, right? Number of dollars. That's what we need. But more often, there's multifaceted ways to look at your problem that could affect how you measure value. Let's see an example of this at Bazaarvoice. So as I mentioned, we curate user-generated content to drive sales for our clients. But not all user-generated content belongs on our clients' websites. Some users may use profanity or post personally identifiable information that we don't want to go on our clients' websites. In addition, users might generate a lot of fake reviews to tarnish a brand's reputation. Both of these activities degrades the trust that we provide to our clients and reduces the value that our products provide. In addition, our clients care about timeliness. They know that consumers are looking at the most recent reviews before they make their purchasing decision. So all three of these could be a metric that we use to measure our value. And finally, we have to consider the cost of getting this content to our clients. Because what we're talking about here is really a moderation problem. And we have to somehow process that content and pay for it. So that's a value metric for ourselves. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look into this and see how we can approach this moderation problem from a naive solution. One nuance here is that our clients often have different expectations about what they consider appropriate. So a beer client, for example, would expect conversations about alcohol on their website, but a children's brand may not. We capture that from all of our clients when they sign on to us. And a really simple approach here would be to just pay a human moderator to have those client options in hand and look at every piece of content that comes through our system and approve or reject it. And this might not be so bad. It's worth considering if we even need machine learning here, right? Again, machine learning should not be a solution looking for a problem, right? And you can discern that if you have captured your value metrics. So how does this approach measure up? Well, we're guaranteeing that our content is appropriate. Cool. We can make sure it's authentic. Yeah, the humans are pretty good at that. But it takes us a lot of time. All the humans have to look through the things. It takes minutes, maybe hours. And it's not very cost effective because we have to pay them to do it, right? So how can we leverage our data to generate more value in this approach? Bazaarvoice has a lot of data. We capture about 9 million reviews per month and have over 650 million historically. And using machine learning, we can identify the underlying characteristics of those data that our clients consider inappropriate to go on their website, right? So let's see how, if we introduce machine learning, how our architecture changes. Okay, so instead of having the human moderators look at each piece of content, we'll now just send them a small subset of content that we'll have them label as ground truth for our data scientists. Our data scientists can then take that ground truth data along with our client options that specify what they're looking for and train models that represent one or many of our clients' use cases. It's important to keep in mind that each client has a different opinion about what they consider appropriate, so the data scientists have to look for underlying trends across our customers to identify exactly what we're looking for in those models. They then deploy those models to EC2, which can automatically approve or reject the content. So this looks pretty good, right? But as we're all software companies, so we know the devil's in the details here, right? We can still get appropriate and authentic content, but we still have an issue with timeliness. Specifically, it takes 30 minutes for our data scientists to deploy a model to this system. And if a client changes their options, that also took 30 minutes to update. In addition, it wasn't very cost effective. Well, there's still room to save some costs because all of those models are deployed all the time. And finally, we have a scaling issue because we're limited by the size of the memory in that EC2 instance. That tells us how many models we can deploy. So what do all these problems have in common? All of these problems are related to how we deploy the models. And the practice of studying how we deploy models efficiently is studied well in the field of MLOps. Similar to DevOps, MLOps aims to make machine learning model deployment, monitoring, and building sustainable and reliable and robust. So AWS Sagemaker is a hosted MLOps service that enables you to deploy models to the cloud. So let's see how our approach changes when we introduce Sagemaker. Okay, so now, instead of deploying all of our models to EC2, we deploy each model to a separate Sagemaker serverless endpoint. We also share our client options with the ML inference system. This allows us to dynamically route the content to the appropriate models depending on the client's specifications. And by deploying the models to Sagemaker, we get quite a bit of scalability gains because like Lambda functions, they can scale out with traffic or turn off when they're not being used. This gives us a cost-effective and timely approach. Let's see the details here. Okay, so the really exciting numbers are on this slide. So by adding machine learning to our moderation problem, we are now moderating 73% of the content that comes through our system. This is really great because it means that we can moderate that content within seconds instead of the minutes to hours it used to take to get to our client's website. By introducing Sagemaker to that approach, we cut our time to value by 6x. Specifically, it takes us only 5 minutes to deploy a new model to an endpoint as opposed to 30 minutes before. In addition, we can now onboard new clients instantaneously instead of having to wait that 30-minute turnaround time. Sagemaker also provided us with quite a bit of scalability. I'd like to think that it's infinite. I'm sure AWS would beg to differ. But we have about 400 models deployed to this now, and we're planning to deploy thousands to get that 73% even higher. So there's no limit on that memory size. And finally, since we switched to AWS SageMaker serverless, those endpoints turn off when they're not being used. So we're only paying for the CPU we use, like Lambda functions. As a result, we saw a savings of over 82% over our EC2 costs. So the success story I just shared demonstrates how investment in machine learning and model deployment helped us generate value from our data. And doing so was really gleaned by an investment from us into MLOps. And not only can MLOps help us generate more value from our data, but it can also help us respond to disruptive AI technologies that pose a threat to your business. ChatGPT, for example, poses an existential threat to user-generated content because it can generate a product review that looks really real automatically. But with MLOps, and since we have our proper value metrics set up, we can measure exactly how much a new disruptive technology can impact our bottom line right away. In addition, MLOps gives us a framework to experiment where we can accelerate innovation with new innovative technologies. In other words, we can stop playing defense and start playing offense. Bazaarvoice views ChatGPT as just another tool that we can use to generate value from our data. So I hope I've inspired you to use machine learning to generate value from your data. And I hope you got some value from the best practices that I shared today. Specifically, define your value metrics. Doing so will ensure all of your team understands what success looks like. Also, look critically at what's holding you back. In our case, our model deployment process wasn't scalable. And finally, invest in MLOps. Doing so will allow you to embrace new, innovative, disruptive AI technologies and continue to glean value from your data as your business grows. Thank you.
All right.